Chile's Chamber of Deputies has approved changes that the Senate introduced to the bill on the early withdrawal of 10% of private pensions fund. The U.S. and Russian presidents discussed strategic stability and arms control in a telephone conversation. According to the World Health Organization, around 10,000 healthcare workers have been infected with COVID-19 in Africa. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Laura Palmero. Chile's Chamber of Deputies has approved changes that the Senate introduced to the bill on the early withdrawal of 10% of private pensions fund, with the support of more than two-thirds of the parliamentarians. After more than 2 weeks of procedures, the bill has now been approved and is ready to be enacted by President Sebastián Piñera. A large number of deputies of the ruling party, National Renewal, who abstained when the bill was first voted on, this time supported it, making for a total of 116 votes in favor. However, the bill faces an uncertain future as President Piñera could decide to veto it or take it to the Constitutional Court. Questioned on Thursday as to do what the plan to do, President Piñera didn't offer a straight answer, but insisted he would do what he believed was the best for Chile and Chileans. The president of the Supreme Court Electoral Tribunal of Bolivia, Salvador Romero, announced a new election date on Thursday. The elections, which were scheduled to take place in September, have been postponed and will now take place on Sunday, October 18th, with a possible second round on November 29th. According to the electoral authorities, the new date provides better conditions for the protection of health as well as favoring necessary logistical deployment across the country. In a statement, the Electoral Tribunal urged citizens, state powers, political forces and candidates, the civil society organizations and the media to support this decision. This Thursday, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez tweeted about the Cuban government's readiness to treat Bolivia's COVID-19 patients. According to a statement issued by the Cuban Foreign Ministry, despite the attacks launched by the de facto government against Cuban collaborators in Bolivia, a clinic belonging to Cuba located in La Paz will be open to offer treatment to Bolivian coronavirus patients as an act of humanity in the face of the aggression of which the island is subject, even in the face of the pandemic. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the United States reached 4 million this Thursday. Our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Jorge Gestoso, brings us the details about it.
Thank you. The cases of coronavirus in the U.S. reached 4 million today. The deaths about 4... Thank you. The cases of coronavirus today reached 4 million in the U.S., and we're talking 145,000 deaths at this point. Most definitely a crisis that President Trump cannot handle it, cannot find the way to accept that is needed a strategy that it doesn't show it. He's going to this afternoon also go through a third press conference at the White House. And in the meantime, new figures about unemployment. We're talking about 1.4 million people were applying for benefits of unemployment this past week. That means that 52 million in the last 18 weeks, and that most definitely create a big problem, because on top of that, President Trump is facing racial tensions, because in the case of the city, we're talking about the city in Oregon, the city of Portland, continues demonstrations against police brutality and also the inequality and then also the assassination of George Floyd. And definitely that situation is going to be an escalation of relations between the mayors, most of them Democrats, and President Trump, who is announcing that he's sending more federal agents to cities like Chicago, cities like Kansas City and cities like Albuquerque to, quote, fighting or helping to fight violence on those cities. But definitely the president has an uphill battle just about 15 weeks away from the presidency in terms of the coronavirus pandemic that is out of control, in terms of the economy that is still on free fall, and in terms of racial tensions. We get back to you now.
China has presented a plan that seeks to strengthen cooperation with Latin America and the Caribbean in economic, social and political spheres, as well as in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic and the following recovery. During a virtual meeting with his regional counterparts, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi highlighted mutual support during the COVID-19 pandemic, which poses unprecedented challenges to global development and stability. In order to overcome the challenges, the Foreign Minister proposed that each joint project be directed towards the population's well-being and called to strengthen solidarity and collaboration in these efforts. Yi reiterated China's willingness to support the region's vaccine research, to grant special loans for infrastructure works in public health, and funds for the implementation of United Nations food and agriculture programs. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is preparing to welcome tourists, but has not yet decided on a date to reopen its borders. According to a statement issued on Wednesday by the Minister of Tourism, Lindsey Grant, the phased approach will see the country fully opening at the local level to begin with, the regionally and lastly internationally. The minister announced that the government is starting training programs this week, which will run through August 27th for workers in the hospitality sector, including restaurants, bars, and tour operators. Grant assured that the country has already flattened the curve of the coronavirus epidemic and that the next big task will be resuming tourism operations. St. Kitts and Nevis has reported just 17 cases and no COVID-19 fatalities. And Puerto Rico has abandoned its reopening plans after a coronavirus spike was reported in the island. Governor Wanda Vázquez has ordered bars, gyms, marinas, theater and casinos to shut again until at least July 31st. In addition, sales of alcohol will be prohibited after 7 p.m. and restaurant capacity will be limited to 50%. One of the mayor's issues Puerto Rico is faced is the lack of discipline in the use of masks and social distancing by tourists. The country has reported more than 4,500 cases and a death toll of almost 200. Tropical storm Gonzalo formed in the Atlantic on Wednesday and is expected to become the first hurricane of the season. According to the National Hurricane Center of the United States, at 11 a.m. Thursday, Gonzalo had sustained winds of 65 miles per hour and was about 585 miles east of the southern Windward Island. A hurricane watch has been issued for Barbados, as Gonzalo is expected to strengthen into hurricane over Thursday and a peak at a Category 1. A watch is typically issued 48 hours before tropical storm force winds are anticipated to reach the location, according to the National Hurricane Center. And we'll be right back after this break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin discussed strategic stability and arms control during a telephone conversation. The two leaders agreed on the importance of holding consultations on the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. They also highlighted the importance of the Russian initiative to hold a summit of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council to discuss international security problems. According to reports, President Donald Trump reiterated his hope of avoiding a costly trilateral arms race between China, Russia, and the United States. Both sides have stressed the need for collective efforts to maintain regional stability and the global nuclear non-proliferation policy. Negotiators working to establish new trade relations between the United Kingdom and the European Union admitted on Thursday that there was a long way to go, despite some progress made in the complex talks. In comments delivered at the end of the latest round of talks, chief EU negotiator Michael Barnier agreed that there were sticking points in the made clear the consequences. The UK left the European Union on January 31st, but remains inside the EU's tariff economic zone until the end of the year. The parties are trying to secure a new trade agreement before that deadline to avoid a no-deal scenario, which would see tariffs and other restrictions imposed on trade between the UK and the 27-nation bloc.
If you do not reach an agreement on our future partnership, there will be far more friction. For instance, on trade in goods, in addition to new customs formalities, there will be tariffs and quotas. This is the truth of Brexit. This is the truth of Brexit, and I will continue to tell the truth. If we want to avoid this additional friction, we must come to an agreement in October at the latest, so that our new treaty can enter into force on the 1st of January next year. This means that we only have a few weeks left and that we should not waste them. Let me also remind you that we only have little time, in fact the same time, to properly implement the withdrawal agreement.
According to the United Nations Development Programme report released on Thursday, the immediate introduction of a temporary basic income could slow the COVID-19 surge and provide a lifeline for the world's poorest people. The agency estimates that it would cost governments upwards of $199 billion per month to provide a guaranteed basic income to the 2.7 billion people living below or just above the poverty line in 132 developing countries. The UNDP stressed that the pandemic continues to infect more than 1.5 million people per week, particularly in developing countries, where 7 out of 10 workers make a living through informal markets and cannot earn money if they are stuck at home. The report proposes what it describes as a feasible measure that is urgently needed, claiming it would be enable close to 3 billion people to stay at home. Researchers are making good progress in developing vaccines against COVID-19, but their first use cannot be expected until early 2021, a World Health Organization expert said on Wednesday. Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director of the World Health Organization Health Emergency Program, noted that the agency is working to ensure fair vaccine distribution, but in the meantime, it is key to curb the spread of the virus. As daily new cases around the globe are at near record levels, he stressed that while good progress is being made with several vaccines now in phase 3 trials, which have proven to be safe and generated an immune response.
But realistically, it's going to be the first part of next year before we start seeing people getting vaccinated. That's the first sort of issue. Second issue is vaccines are never 100% effective. They generate immunity in most people. For some vaccines, it's only some people. For some vaccines, like measles, they're highly effective and 95% of people are protected. We don't know where we are with this. So we're going to have to wait and see how effective the vaccine is going to be and how long will the protection last.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin has responded to the U.S. government's order to close China's consulate in the city of Houston.
In July 2018 and January 2020, the U.S. opened China's diplomatic pouch twice without authorization. This act flagrantly violated the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, and seriously violated China's diplomatic dignity and security interests. For a while now, the U.S., with its ideological prejudice, has continued to monitor, harass, and even arbitrarily detain Chinese students and scholars in the U.S., and accuse Chinese scholars on the presumption of guilt. The U.S. methods seriously infringe on Chinese citizens' legitimate rights and interests, seriously interfere and damage normal personnel exchanges between China and the U.S. This is naked political persecution.
On Thursday, the World Health Organization Director General rejected as false an allegation from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, saying that he owned his position to a deal with China.
One thing that really matters to us, and which should matter to the entire international community, it's saving lives. And WHO will not be distracted by these comments. One of the greatest threats we face continues to be the politicization of the pandemic. COVID-19 does not respect borders, ideologies, or political parties. And I have said it many times, COVID politics should be quarantined.
Also on Thursday, Japan marked the one-year countdown to the 2021 Summer Olympic Games. To mark the day, the Ariake Arena was lit up in Olympic colors. The building was first lit up in blue as a tribute to health personnel for their efforts in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Then, after 30 seconds of darkness, the venue switched to Olympic colors. Tokyo's Governor Yuriko Koike said to fight against the coronavirus is the main priority for the year ahead. She made her comments as the Tokyo region confirmed a record 366 new coronavirus cases on Thursday. And we have more stories coming up after this final break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. According to the World Health Organization's regional director, around 10,000 healthcare workers, most of them nurses, have been infected with the novel coronavirus in Africa.
The majority of those who have been infected have been nurses, but we have had all categories of healthcare workers, doctors, laboratory technicians, and even some of the people who are providing ancillary support in healthcare settings infected.
About the COVID organics, we are also working, protocols has been established, and both team, WHO and national teams are working to push forward the clinical trial related to the COVID organics. So our collaboration is there, and we are monitoring the situation that is changing quite fast.
And the number of coronavirus cases in Africa surpassed 700,000 on Thursday, according to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. At least 16,000 people have been killed by the coronavirus across the continent, while more than 400,000 patients have recovered, according to the latest figures. Southern Africa has reported 400,000 cases, while North Africa has recorded over 140,000. South Africa remains the worst-hit country in the continent, with almost 400,000 cases and a death toll that has climbed to almost 6,000. West African leaders gathered in Mali's capital, Bamako, on Thursday in a fresh push to end an escalating political crisis in the country. In an exceptional one-day summit, the presidents of Senegal, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Niger scheduled meetings with Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and the leaders of the protest movement calling for his resignation. The unrest has deeply concerned Mali's neighbors and allies, who feared that the country, which has been fighting an ongoing jihadist insurgency, could slide into chaos. And India's health ministry reported a record surge of over 45,000 new coronavirus cases on Thursday, taking the total to over 1 million. Over 1,000 COVID-19 deaths were also reported, bringing the nationwide death toll to nearly 30,000. Nearly 60% of the COVID-19 fatalities in the country have been reported in the three worst-hit states of Maharashtra, Delhi, and Tamil Nadu. Many states in India are reimposing lockdowns as health authorities struggle to stop the spread of the virus. India is now the third hardest hit country by the pandemic in the world, after the United States and Brazil. In Nigeria, unknown armed men raided a village in the northwest of Kaduna State. Local authorities and representatives of communities said that a group of attackers on motorbikes raided the village of Goragan overnight. The attackers killed 11 people and seriously injured 15. They also set houses, motorbikes, and church, and a car on fire. Community leader Jonathan Asaki said that the raid caused more than 550 people to flee their homes. Iraq opened its airports to commercial flights on Thursday as part of the government's plan to ease restrictions following months of lockdown. The move is part of a group of measures introduced by the government that includes the reopening of malls and other commercial centers by the end of July. The reopening comes despite record numbers of coronavirus cases, which are expected to exceed 100,000 this week. Iraq's health ministry reported over 2,700 new cases over a 24-hour period this Thursday. According to ministry statistics, over 4,000 people have been killed by COVID-19. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but we finish with images of a hot air balloon festival that was delayed for 3 months due to the coronavirus pandemic and finally took place in China. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website and our social media pages. For Telesur English, I'm Laura Palmero. Thank you for watching.
Давай, еще раз!